down in OKC as the big man, Chet Holmgren, got paid this morning. Holmgren agreed to a fully guaranteed rookie max extension worth a projected $239 million, which could be worth as much as $250 million.
Oh my goodness.
This deal does not include a player option, by the way, and that's after SGA already signed his 4-year Supermax deal worth a projected $285 million. The MVP's contract, which starts in 2 years, is worth over $71 million a season, the largest average annual value in NBA history. The Thunder have now committed for a projected $524 million in extensions to keep SGA Chet in OKC through the 30-31 season. Next on their agenda could be an extension for Jaylen Williams, who, like Holmgren, is rookie extension eligible this summer. Now welcoming in the man who broke the news this morning, our guy Shannon. Check out the full rookie max extension. How did this deal come about, Shannon?
George, when you win a championship, the second youngest team ever to do so, big business awaits. They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander done on that 4-year, $285 million Supermax last week. And then it was about Chet Holmgren and Jaylen Williams, a.k.a. J-Dub. And today was Chet Day, and getting him done was the priority. Oklahoma City officials and Holmgren's agent, Bill Duffy at WME, they met over the last week or so, ironed out this 5-year full max extension that reaches almost $250 million this morning. It is fully guaranteed. And this is for a player that has dealt with some serious injury issues in his 3 seasons. But listen, last year, he was the anchor of what was a historic defense. He had the best plus-minus of any player in the NBA playoffs. He had the most blocks ever in a Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So up to $250 million for Chet Holmgren. He was on an all-star trajectory last year before his hip injury that sidelined him for 3 months. So he's committed. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's committed. Jaylen Williams next up at some point here, but Chet Holmgren, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander last week, they have the very important attribute of commitment to this Thunder organization moving forward.
All right, you kind of alluded to it there with Jaylen Williams, but what else does OKC potentially now have to look forward to in regards to the foreseeable future about locking up this roster or making roster moves?
George, I'm told now the Thunder are going to fully focus on finishing up Jaylen Williams, their all-NBA star guard forward, fully focus on finishing up his extension. There is momentum in those conversations with the Thunder between both sides. There's been positive talks, and both sides are aligned on where those negotiations are going. But big picture, the Thunder will be entering the 2025-26 season as a non-luxury tax team for the 3rd straight season. It's very unique in today's NBA to be competing for a championship year in and year out, but it goes to the fact that they have this young core that is just now entering this max extension era for them. They have a bunch of role players locked up on long-term deals. But again, bigger picture, starting that 2026-27 season, this is a team that's projected to begin entering the 1st and 2nd April.
Shams, thank you so much. You're the man, brother. Appreciate you. All right, so there was Shams. Now, Chiney, we know there have been 7 different champions in the last 7 seasons, but when you look at this Thunder team, okay, are they more equipped than any other team to be a potential dynasty?
Right now, they're sitting pretty, I'll tell you that. And I just was listening to Shams, and I started writing some things down. I was like, 2 of their contracts were $500 million. Is that correct? $500 million. Sam Presti, obviously maneuvering this, they're still under the luxury tax. And their big 3, 27 years or younger, a number of them all NBA.
Yep.
This is wild level of finesse in the NBA. And, you know, if there's one team that is positioned for destined for greatness, it is this squad. But there's one big caveat, okay? It's the fact that when you grow over the next few years, as these guys continue to be dominant, it's going to be that much harder, especially when those numbers hit the books, to retain the supporting cast.
Right.
The Carusos, the Hartensteins, you know, the Dorts. That, to me, is the question mark. But they do have 11 picks to be able to buffer the young roster around them. But I think they're hedging on that core, that big 3 core, which, by the way, if you're thinking about it, I was in love with the James Harden, the Russell Westbrook, the Kevin Durant. But this right here, they won a championship. Not saying that they're better than those future Hall of Famers, but their team is basically has a runway where they've bought in already to the identity, the system. They have so many boxes checked that it's like, okay, if any team can do it and go back to back, maybe it's them.
But they're set up for sustainable success, and they're set up in a way where, as Janae mentioned, I think they won because of their cast, because of the supporting cast, because of their depth. They just outlasted everybody. They had the most talent, and they outlasted everyone. And I think as we go forward, okay, hard side might become a luxury. Well, guess what? You have Jalen Williams behind him, and then you have Sorber, who you just drafted, and then you have Brandon Carlson, who you just did it.
Casey Wallace is right there, already getting big minutes.
They just have the second wave right behind that first wave, and as you mentioned, Shea's extension doesn't kick in for 2 more years.
Right.
So he's still on the deal that he was on before. These extensions don't kick in for a little while.
Yeah.
And they have a couple years to play with those secondary players before they have to make those tougher decisions.
And by the way, can we shout out Jalen Williams a little bit here?
Yeah.
That man was dealing with a wrist injury since March. He missed 2 weeks in March after an injury, then re-aggravated it in April, and played through the entire playoffs. He just talked about this recently, playing through that wrist injury. I was in those huddles. He was getting work on that wrist the entire conference finals and
I remember
finals.
watching him. We saw him. There was one game where he hit a couple shots. It was against Denver, and he starts blowing on his hand, and that wrist, the wrist that's always taped. And we asked him about it post game, and he's trying not to say anything.
Sure.
Right? He's trying not to acknowledge any level of pain or whatever it is. He goes, "Oh, I didn't even know." The camera literally captured him doing it, and he goes, "I don't even know what you're talking about." Like, that guy was cool as a pillow.
And you know what's crazy? He's the only player that had high levels of consistency through all rounds with Shea. Now you're going to get that in the future with J-Dub and Chet only improving. To me, it's wild. Even though the West is still tough.
Stacked.
Yeah.
Powell to Miami, John Collins to the Clippers, and then Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a 2027 Clippers second-round pick, all to Utah. Powell, remember, he was a borderline all-star. He averaged a career high just under 22 points a game last season. And this got some reaction from Kevin Love, who's become the king of social media, by the way. I was waiting for what he was going to be.
That's funny.
But this is how we weighed in. He said, "I never thought I'd be a math problem. Welcome to the NBA." I guess welcome to the NBA indeed, Brian. What's your biggest takeaway when you're looking at this 3-team deal?
Well, the reason Kevin said that, just so you know, is because he had to be included in this deal for salary purposes.
Right.
And the Heat are thrilled with what they got in this deal. They had been looking for a way to upgrade the talent on their roster, and to be able to basically get John Collins from the Jazz and then flip him to the Clippers for Norm Powell. That is a big upgrade to their backcourt. Norm Powell is coming off of a career season. His steady improvement in the mid part of his career has been terrific. This is definitely the type of move that in an Eastern Conference that frankly is banged up and is devoid of talent. This kind of talent influx is huge for the Heat. And the Clippers make a big move here. They have added a lot to their front court over the last 2 weeks, signing Brook Lopez to be Ivica Zubac's backup, and now adding John Collins, a frontline power forward in the last year of his contract. You assume he's going to be motivated to have a big season.
Man, Wendy, repost, retweet, heavy on the what does this mean for the Miami Heat, y'all. Like, when I saw this going